I wanted to really have a heart-to-heart with you and give you a moment to vent about your Boston Red Sox because, friends, I think we all know Parker was cautiously optimistic coming into 2025, and for good reason. And for those of you who have not watched Parker's fantastic Red Sox video, please go do that. But Parker, shit's really hit the fan. They are, if you look at their record right now, they are sitting
30 and
at
34.
30 and 34, now 9 games out of the division. And we need to have a conversation, I think, in this house, set this up for you. Where do they go from here? Like, what does the rest of the season look like that in your eyes would constitute a successful 2025?
So I covered a lot of this in the video that you mentioned earlier. It's like 15 minutes long on the YouTube channel. I highly suggest you give it a watch. But what I'll say and what I said in the video is when you trade for Garrett Crochet and you only have 2 years of control, that is nothing but a win now move. When you sign Alex Bregman 1 year before his first opt-out and an opt-out every season of this $40 million a year deal, that's a win now move. You move Rafael Devers off of his natural position, move into DH, win now move. You start the season with your absolute phenom of a young player prospect in Christian Campbell on the opening day roster. Win now move. And all of this leading up to opening day was like crack cocaine for Red Sox fans who have had to sit through year after year after year of 500 or worse baseball since the World Series win in 2018 with that one outlier season of 2021. And when all of those moves that happened right leading up to opening day, what did they say to the fans? They said, we're here. We are ready to party. We're ready to win now, and we're going to try to do that. But what happened week 1 of the season? In week 1 of the season, Garrett Crochet extension. He's going to be around for 8 years. Christian Campbell extension. He's going to be around for 8 years. And then it started to, I think at that moment, the urgency left the room because it no longer was, we have to make the playoffs this year because we have Bregman and we have Crochet. It no longer was that. And it more turned into, okay, we have cornerstone pieces. We have people to build around. We have the number 1 prospect in baseball who has yet still to make his debut. We have the number 5 prospect in baseball or number 8 prospect in baseball in Marcelo Meyer, who at the time had yet to make his debut. And I think what the extensions did was remove a sense of urgency from the front office that maybe would have led to a better roster construction at this particular point in the season. Because what have we seen so far? Christian Campbell kind of had a great first month and the league adjusts, and he's had a subpar second month and into June of this season. He's the worst qualified hitter in Major League Baseball whenever Trevor Story decides to let him grab that and pull it from his hands. And that's another thing that's going wrong. Trevor Story is not playing great baseball, and Alex Bregman goes down with an injury, and all these things compound on top of each other.
Yes.
To now less incentivize going for it this season and more incentivize, well, let's see what we have in Marcelo Meyer. Let's see what we have in Roman Anthony.
Right. I mean, the pitching is doing them no favors. They're 24th in ERA right now for their starters. And if your name's not Garrett Crochet, you're struggling. So I just, one of the things I think about when I think about this team, and I saw this on social the other day, I actually sent it to you. Someone was talking about like, oh, hey, here are some ideas for Jarren Duran trade packages. And my first reaction was, calm the F down. All right.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. The Red Sox aren't doing that. But, however, if this continues going into the trade deadline, what would you want to see them do?
I want to see him trade Jarren Duran. I actually kind of want to see him trade both Jarren Duran and Wilyer Abreu.
Now, okay, so let's pause there for a second. Makes sense from a Roman Anthony standpoint. Get that.
It's not just Roman Anthony.
Who else?
Nate Eaton is doing pretty well in AAA, and not to mention,
really,
Nate Eaton's doing pretty well in AAA. and he's not a guy that I'm focusing on as like a centerpiece moving forward, but he is
Right.
a good depth
Right.
piece. Rob Refsnyder's on his way out the door. He's been trying to retire for like 5 fucking years now at this point. So you got a good another bench bat, another option off the bench. But the guy that I'm actually really excited about in the minor league system for the Red Sox just got called up to AAA a day or two ago, and his name's Blaze Jordan. And Blaze Jordan was 14 years old hitting nukes in Chase Field, and is only 22 years old because he was a high school draftee, and now has absolutely torn it up in AA Portland, got called up to AAA. We're going to see where he's at. So what I'm getting at is there are these assets that the Red Sox currently have at the big league level. The team is not competitive at this particular point. So what do I think you do? Clear house. Trade fucking everybody. I want to see Jarren Duran gone. I want to see Wilyer Abreu gone. I want to see Alex Bregman traded. I want to see Walker Buehler traded. You have all of these guys who, the young guys who are controllable, can genuinely get insanely good returns. And then at the trade deadline, when you talk about a guy like Alex Bregman, who was, if not for the existence of Aaron Judge, the MVP frontrunner in the American League up until his injury, he's a guy who's going to opt out. I think he's just going to opt out after this season. Trade him. Let him contribute to a playoff team. You know he can perform in the playoffs. Walker Buehler also on a 1-year deal, a prove-it deal, a platform year. One of the best postseason pitchers of the last 4 or 5 seasons. Trade him as well for a team about to make a run. I think there's the opportunity here to have one of the most productive trade deadlines in Red Sox, if not recent baseball history, if the Red Sox fully decide that we are going to chalk this year up, call up Roman Anthony, let him start getting big league at bats, DFA Trevor Story, get his money off the books, get below the salary cap by trading away an Alex Bregman and a Walker Buehler, and then just see what happens.
I don't know. That sounds really ballsy and risky to me. And here's why I say that is like, you go one or two ways. You're essentially rebuilding the roster or retooling this roster. To me, retooling is we can make one of those trades, right? We can make one of those trades. We can even do a MLB talent for MLB talent trade.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can, like you said, trade for a handful of guys, whatever, and then see what happens in the offseason and give it a couple years. But whatever way you go, you're pot committed to that way. And you could find yourself in a scenario, and this is where I get nervous, is you don't compete for another 3 years and you're almost halfway through a Christian Campbell and a Garrett Crochet contract. That makes me nervous.
Yeah.
So, like, would you rather, Parker, as an alternative, as a fan, not saying that this would happen, but say the Red Sox went to the Red Sox of old and said, this offseason, we're going to try to get a Kyle Tucker. We're going to try to get a backup catcher, and we're going to try to get a Kyle Schwarber or someone for DH. Obviously, that wouldn't make sense with Devers, but you get what I'm saying. If we were to add a couple big name guys,
a first base, a corner infielder with a big bat.
Correct. Pete Alonso opts out. He's coming to you. Great. Like, would you rather have that and try to go for this thing now than resetting because you had one bad, you know what I mean? Like, I think they're not far enough to me to tear it down. They're not that far.
Yes, I agree. I think
except for the pitching.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So the hardest thing to acquire in Major League Baseball is pitching, at least in season.
Yes.
I don't want Sandy Alcantara right now. He's the worst qualified starter in Major League Baseball. Every other major starting pitcher that looks to be hitting the market, I'm kind of not really that interested in. That's going to be a problem in the offseason as well. Don't get me wrong. I think you would need to literally sell the whole farm just to bring in somewhat quality pitching. I think the bullpen, genuinely, too far gone now to supplement. I think you have too many key guys that you absolutely need to be centerpiece arms in that bullpen that are already at 25, 26, 27 appearances before we've even gotten halfway through June. which means they've used up half their tank of gas and we're not even at the All-Star break yet. And if we're truly competing, that means a deep playoff run, and those guys are going to make another 15 plus appearances in the postseason when starters are only going 4 innings. We got lucky this season, actually, in several different ways. Carlos Narvaez looks like he's going to be the catcher of the future for this Red Sox team.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
A lot of Red Sox fans did not even know where he came from. He was traded for from the Yankees on the day of the Crochet signing, or the Crochet trade. And then they also got lucky in a guy like Hunter Dobbins, who prior to this season was very ineffective in the minor leagues. His sinker was one of the worst pitchers in minor league baseball. And then he retooled his sinker to make it a splinker, and he's been very good at the big league level. Where am I going with this? I don't even think that there is enough there right now to make a run this season. I genuinely do not. I think Jarren Duran is going to come down to earth and have a 5 WAR season. He's not going to have the 8.7 WAR season he had last year. Wilyer Abreu is streaky at best, but he is a very good bat. If you can get him in the right system with the right people to line up with protection in the lineup, I think he can seriously produce. And that's kind of like the consensus around the league from what I've been reading on things like MLB trade rumors and listening to Jeff Passan and stuff like that. I think that there's enough value here that they have not pegged as you're the future of this team, that you have to get some value for it. Because at the end of the year, let me phrase it to you this way. If at the end of the year, the Red Sox finish below 500, which it looks like what if they finish 77 wins? Walker Buehler walks, Alex Bregman opts out. We're retooling the roster anyway. We're rebuilding anyway. Now we have a Roman Anthony we need to find a spot on the roster for. And we have a Blaze Jordan who presumably, and then this is a big assumption, but mashes in AAA. We need to find a spot on the roster for him. So where do we fill holes? I think you look at, like, we just talked about the Diamondbacks. I think they would bite on a Walker Buehler trade, and I think there's enough value on the Red Sox roster to get a guy like Jordan Lawler to play third base for the Red Sox moving forward. And now you have Marcelo Meyer at short, Christian Campbell at second, a Jordan Lawler at third. Then you, like you referenced earlier, maybe get, a 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 year deal for a guy like a Pete Alonso or a Kyle Schwarber to go play first base or DH for you. Maybe you convince Rafael Devers to put a glove on and play first. Who knows? But I think that there's enough outfield young talent. Like, genuinely, Ceddanne Rafaela is like the best defensive center fielder in baseball right now, and he's kind of figuring out how to swing the bat. So I think the outfield is set. But what needs to happen is pitching needs to be acquired, and the infield needs to be completely renovated. And to me, there's enough extra value in the outfield to do it with.
Agreed. I agree with you. I think the value's there. That value, because it's there, though, I feel like you need to do it now for next season, not for 2-3 years down the line. Like, they could, if you trade a Jarren Duran, you can get a quality starter. No doubt about that.
Yeah, for
go
sure.
ahead and do that. That's great.
You go to the right team that has enough pitching. I think you come away with like number 2.
Yeah, potentially. Absolutely. You throw in a couple pieces with Duran, I think that's what you get. And so you do that and you sign a couple of these free agents, whatever. You develop some pitchers.
This is a Dylan Cease platform year, isn't it? Like, he's going to hit the market?
It sure is. Dylan Cease, Zach Gallen.
Michael King.
I know he's not Michael King. Even if you wanted to take a flyer on someone like a Shane Bieber, right? Or a Brandon Woodruff who's coming back from an injury.
That's a perfect 1 to 2 year deal guy kind of guy.
Right. So, like, I know people watching your video were probably like, and this is not you, this is them being like, oh shit, we really screwed the pooch this year. Now we're going to have to do all this resetting and who knows how long it's going to take. Guys, if you just get pitching, you have enough of this depth that we've been talking about for months now, where you can trade a Jarren Duran, you have the depth, you still have talented pieces, but this does not have to be a rebuild situation. And I would hate to see them at the deadline trade Wilbur, Duran, and then some, and all these other guys just to kind of reset. That they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be resetting at this point.
I think that the thing that gets me with, like, a Jarren Duran, the reason I want to trade Jarren Duran now is because this is a guy who has had his struggles at the big league level. He really broke out in a huge way last year and has started to really hit over the last couple of weeks this year. But the problem with that I see with Jarren Duran is How does he make his production? Where does he get his value? From his speed. Well, you know better than anybody. Speed guys deteriorate quicker than any other kind of player. And so I just don't see Jarren Duran's value persisting through the window and into the window that actually represents real World Series contention for this team. I think they would have already signed him to an extension, or at least leaked the fact that they were trying to sign him to an extension if that was the intention. I think they already are planning on him walking. So if that's the case, get something for him. If you don't capitalize on the value that Jarren Duran built up last season, and then he ends up being a 2 and 3 WAR player over the next couple years, and you get nothing for him, either he walks or you get like a bullpen arm for him at a trade deadline sometime down the road, you're going to have missed out on one of the best like trade opportunities in recent history. So I'm personally on a sell high on some assets. That's where I'm at right now.
I know. I think it's a good call. And you know what? Really good call on the potential career trajectory of Duran. And to me, the best comparison for that is you think of Jacoby Ellsbury.
Yes.
That is Jarren Duran.
Duran's my favorite player on the Boston Red Sox. I love Jarren Duran. But if I want my Red Sox to be competitive moving forward, that's kind of what happens. That, in my opinion, you have to. And Jacoby Ellsbury was my favorite player when he was here as well.
And again, guy that just kind of what you said, right? Deteriorated as the years gone down. That speed went away. The hit tool went away. Defense was but I mean, the defense was always slightly above average, but everything kind of dwindled with Jacoby. And I think that is a very similar path you could see Duran on.
Yeah, I think you need to sell high on him right now, especially over this last week. He hit 2 doubles in 2 consecutive games over the last couple games against the Angels. We're going to see what happens in this Yankee series. I think after the Yankee series, here's my prediction. I think the Red Sox get swept in this Yankee series.
Yeah.
I mean, you're bringing the hottest hitter in the world, a righty, and to go hit at Fenway Park. I think Aaron Judge single-handedly dismantles. Walker Buehler's on the mound. He's got a 4.4 ERA. Walker Buehler's on the mound for the opener. I think the Yankees sweep the Red Sox. The Red Sox sitting at 13 games out of the division. At that point, I think it's like, all right, sell it all.
Is Crochet not pitching in that series?
If Walker is actually, he might. I still don't know though, man. That's the.
I'll tell you what, Crochet. Don't get me wrong. He's had an excellent season. However, a couple innings this season, the wheels have fallen off on him. It's
the first
few and far between. But the first inning, he's had a few first innings this year, and it could be against the Yankees. He has another one potentially. Good lineups.
So okay, it's not out of the question for the Red Sox. I mean, shit, if they could do some damage against the Yankees. Looking now at the projected starters, Walker Buehler goes against Will Warren. Will Warren is sporting a 5 ERA this season. Walker Buehler goes against Will Warren in the opener on Friday. Then on Saturday night, it's Garrett Crochet versus Ryan Yarbrough. I'm gonna give that game to the Red Sox because Crochet Yarbrough, that's just a pretty lopsided. Now the third game, I'm a little bit skeptical about because we have Hunter Dobbins going against Carlos Rodon. Rodon has looked very good this season, and Dobbins is very good first time through the order. And then after that, it's like a 350 batting average against for him.
Lovely.
So, if I'm a psychopath, I could pick 2 out of 3 for the Red Sox. I just don't. I don't see enough fight from this Red Sox team. I'm telling you right now, though, and I am not one of these people calling for Alex Cora's job, but if they get swept by the Yankees, the noise, and already the noise in the fan base is super hostile to Alex Cora. I love Alex Cora. Name me a better alternative right now on the manager market. I don't think there is one. His job, he just got signed to a 3-year extension, and I think that might be the only reason that he wouldn't get fired if it's a severely below 500 season.
Parker, wow, that's funny because like 3 months ago we would not even have been talking about this. It wouldn't even have been in our brains, but I'm a firm believer of whether it's in baseball or in business or in any part of life, leadership does have an expiration date. I think it does expire. And I think in baseball, you can manage a team for 8, 10, 12 years, but change is important, and I kind
Mm-hmm.
of wonder if you're right. I kind of wonder if like if you're going to move on with these young players and build this nucleus of a team, if it really needs to be Cora. I
If
I don't know.
even Joe Torre can be pseudo fired by the Yankees, for which he won so many World Series,
Yeah,
to me, nobody's job safe. Especially like
yeah.
imagine a world where the Red Sox continue this trajectory. Let's say they finish 5 games below 500, and then we find ourselves in a similar 3 games below 500 situation at this point in the season next year. I think he's fired
That's a good barometer. Yeah, for
because
sure.
then he's only got a year left on his contract. You pay that out, you're good. He's gone.
Right.
Again, though, who's a better manager
Wow.
on the market? I don't think there is one. My thing is though that
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
eventually the trajectory for Alex Cora is to be a front office guy. He's been very, very vocal about the fact he wants to end up in a front
yes.
office. If he were to move into a front office role and they frame it as a promotion,
Right.
I could see that being the way that they quote unquote fire the manager and then bring a new guy in. Red Sox fans are going to be all over me saying that Jason Varitek should be the manager of this team. I never want to see Jason Varitek manage this team because I think that he will be villainized immediately, and I never want to see that for Jason Varitek.
He's too legendary to go through that. It reminds me of when Robin Ventura managed the White Sox. Epic disaster.
Oh yeah.
When you're a legend for a team, you don't want to be the final thing you do for that team is to be on shitty teams and managing those teams. That's not what you want to do. Not
Nobody's
that that would.
managerial tenure has ended on good terms except for the people who are like 85 years old and retire.
Yeah.
Frankly,
Yes.
look at
Yes.
like a
No.
Terry
No. You're right.
Francona. Look at, like I said earlier, Joe Torre, or even a Joe Girardi in New York. Like he kind of seemed like tailor made for the Yankees managerial position. Won a World Series and then bye.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point.